But let me go back to that invitation to you. Is there anything that's upsetting, bothering you that you'd like to get past that you're stuck with? That's the essential thing in the event. Isn't that what you help people with? They're stuck.
I would, Carl, and you know, the most important thing is, Carl, we are so amazing as people that we lock ourselves into psychology. We are self-perpetuating. We self-perpetuate patterns of behavior and thinking internally in terms of our own internal dialogue and our relationship with ourselves, but also through our very language when we communicate that particular reality that we're maintaining and keeping in place on a moment by moment basis. So when there's a level of understanding that a person can arrive at when they realize that anything that's happening to them in terms of how they're feeling in the moment is their responsibility. It's nothing to do with anything that's happened to us. And you know, the most beautiful souls go through their most horrendous experiences in this world. Mm-hmm. And bad things happen to good people. However, they happen once, only once. And from that moment forwards, for us to even know it's happened, we have to recreate that within the theatre of our own mind. We see what we saw, we hear what we heard, and the body reacts as if it was real, as if it's real, because it learned that in the first experience. And the story continues, and we continue to play out the same scene over and over again. And because we feel guilt, anger, blame, or shame, at least 3 of those, generally speaking, we feel that we have the right to continue to perpetuate all of that negativity inside of us. Bear with me just for a moment.
Sure. Just to remind you that, yeah, we've got Vincent Grant with us. And the thing that came up was how we might face all this stuff that might be coming up for us in lockdown at the moment. Unresolved emotional stuff, family feuds, boundaries, fear, anger, loneliness, abandonment, the unknown, powerlessness. I don't mean to make light of those, but I just think it's interesting at the moment that is what's coming up for people, I think, or what can come up in these extraordinary circumstances that we find ourselves in. So guilt, anger, blame, and shame, Vinny.
And we feel justified, Carl. And, you know, on one level, rightly so, because we go through terrible experiences. But on another level, Carl, who's experiencing the pain after the event? There's only us that experiences it as we relive it in our mind. And as we feel justified in continuing to be angry, justified in continuing to feel shame, all of that justification keeps us trapped in our own model of reality. And there's only one person present, and that's us. We are the perpetuator, we are the victim. Anybody else that was present, we are them. We play all of these parts within the theatre of our own mind. And in those moments, Carl, we are making a decision. And people may not like this, but the decision is I decide to continue to suffer within myself. A lot of people aren't going to like that because they're so stuck in the justification that they have the right to continue the very emotions that are causing them pain. Now, I've witnessed through life and myself how forgiveness, and I'm not necessarily talking about approaching the person that did that terrible thing. And it might have been us, it might have been me, it might have been us that did that terrible thing. Forgiveness within the ability to let go of all of the angst, the guilt, the anger, blame, and shame, it creates only one experience, and that is freedom, Carl. Complete freedom. Because the inverse of that is being bound and chained to those very emotions of guilt, anger, blame, and shame. They are chains that bind people's consciousness and keep them stuck. And the irony, Carl, is that we feel justified to do it.
Oh, yeah. That's culture.
And I call amazing stories of forgiveness. Amazing stories of forgiveness. So I know it's possible, Carl. Now, I've learned to forgive in my life, and it's made a big difference to me. It's made me lighter, freer. I'm less reactionary. I'm less angry. And set me free, Carl. So that's my personal experience. And knowing human psychology as I do, it is the experience that everybody will have. Because the weight is, they let go of the weight, Carl. The chains are released and they naturally elevate to a higher state of consciousness. And Carl, this is what we all seek consciously or unconsciously, a higher state of consciousness. We're all seeking to feel better all the time, doing things, generally externally, to feel better, to elevate ourselves.
Yeah.
Anything, shopping, you know, when we go shopping, we don't expect to feel this for clothing, say, for example, or go on a holiday. We don't expect to feel the same during the experience and after as we did before. If I make a cup of tea, Carl, I don't expect to feel the same when I'm drinking that cup of tea. I'm making it for a reason, Carl, because I want to experience something. I want to feel something. Just a simple example, right?
Yeah.
So we're constantly trying to elevate our consciousness. You know, if I do something like tidying my home and I can't be bothered, I know afterwards I'm going to feel better. What am I doing? Elevating my consciousness. So all these things we do that we enjoy and we love doing, we're elevating ourselves, trying to elevate ourselves. And I think the greatest elevation is that connection deep inside with ourselves and forgiving everything. Just let it go. None of it's worth it. None of it's worth it, is it? And I'm not talking about going up to the person that abused you and say, hey, you know what? I forgive you. I'm not talking about that. That would be the monster we have in our own mind. What is the monster that I have in my mind of the people that have hurt me in the past? You know, I need to go meet that monster in my own mind, and I need to forgive that monster and set myself free.
Amazing. Okay, so a couple more comments from Rajesh. Things just happen. We label them good or bad. I agree with you, Rajesh, but I think that's a real sort of intellectualization. What we're talking about here, I think, is like, okay, intellectually we can and rationally we can might be able to accept that, you know, that everything is just information and then we label it. But if it has an effect on you and that effect can't be forgiven or released, then you've got some work to do, I would say. And also you make the comment, guilt, anger, blame and shame are emotions of discontent. Absolutely they are, for sure, no argument there. And Luca, good to hear from you, Luca. My personal experience follows exactly what you guys are talking about. Excuse me. Questioning certainties leads to openness of mind. Questioning certainties, isn't that great? When you're so certain about something, you might question it. And being out of our comfort or inner zone, followed by conscious unlearning. Only once I unlearned, and it is constant work, I could make space for new values and views. Nice one, Luca. Love that.
I agree.
Certainty, it can be a bugger, can't it? To feel absolutely justified and right, and you're in your habitual ways of being.
Absolutely.
Nice insight there, Luca. Vinny, but perhaps we should conclude this wonderful conversation. I know you're available to. I don't know what shape your work's taking at the moment, and how you can communicate and work with people right now.
Well, it's really grown since last year, Carl. You know, I understand how I've got a good understanding of creation, Carl, and how it operates. And that if there's something that I want to do with around my change work, and that's the most important thing to me, is I just sit when I'm in contemplation. I wanted to do ancestral work, and that's working with. I already work with. I link my clients up to the deceased relatives, and they have communication, and it's very, very healing. I wanted to take it further, Carl, and work with ancestral lines. And one of my and I just ask for it, and then I imagine it, and then I imagine I'm doing that with my clients, and I feel that feeling and the excitement and exhilaration of all of that, and then I just leave it alone. And a couple of days later, I do the same thing, Carl, and the next thing, boom, pops up in a session with a client. One of my clients recently was taken to meet her ancestors. It was so healing for her. So I'm doing ancestral work, and I do a lot of self-love now. So when I do the integration work, Carl, and take people back to meet aspects of themselves that are stuck along the timeline, instead of just integrating that aspect in, I really get them to make that emotional not emotional, soul connection, and to be aware of the soul of that aspect of themselves through eye contact and really get that connection before integrating them. But also when I take people back into the womb now, I use a lot of light. So when you hear the beating of the mother's heart and we fill the womb, I use a language pattern to trigger the light. And the light fills the womb, and we bring them through the birthing process and bringing that light with them. And then to experience everything in a real positive and loving way. And then process it like having them then observe themselves as a baby and to hold themselves as that baby.
Lovely.
And to be really close. And Carl, you're talking about a moment in time before all the social conditioning, all of the brainwashing and all of the external stuff that people get locked into and identify with and create the values around, and they forget who they are really inside. That stuff isn't present, Carl. They are able to really connect with the soul of that baby, which is actually connecting with themselves. The baby is nothing more than a projection of the mind, just like this room is, and just like you are as I look at you. So they are able to connect with their own soul by interacting with this projection in a very loving way. And then there's an integration in of that baby inside of them. And of course, what you have is an awakening. So I do a lot of work around that now. And also I'm doing online phone, I'm doing Zoom with groups where we do guided meditation, but it's exploring, it's guided meditation. So it's working with the light directly, so connecting them with the light, but also doing emotional release work as well. And working with them to connect more deeply with their soul as well. So I am also doing that. So kind of the work changed a lot. I was all focused on emotional release, but I realize now the most important thing is to get a person connected with their soul, with what we will call love, but really it's with the source flow, the natural state that they came into the world with, that has become obscured by all of the external projections that we create with our mind as a reaction to our social programming. So that essence, that golden ball of light, if you will, becomes obscured around it. What is orbiting around it of all of the projections and the stuff we pick up that we're working through to get back to the core of who we are for the big awakening, which obviously happens progressively. Otherwise, it would be too much.
Mate, that sounds so beautiful. Sounds so beautiful, and it brings us right back to where we started this conversation. Really, is that I'm with you on that. I believe essentially as a being, as we were born, we were just pure love. That's where we must have come from, right? If metaphorically, whatever, I'm not attached to the mechanisms, but it just makes sense metaphorically that we are made of love, and that's where we came from. And in this lockdown time, in this isolation, we're kind of getting a sense of all that has obscured that's been built up on top of it, because it's like the momentum of society has come to a grinding halt. And I think you've kind of got your loving light being self knocking on the door from the inside saying, hey, remember me before you got busy with all that stuff that's come to a crash. But then, we've come so far with that we don't quite know how to make the reconnection, do we? It's like it was just so habitualized into looking outside rather than inside that it's very difficult for people to know how to do that anymore. So thank goodness for you and people like you who can make that reconnection for people. So thanks very much for stepping in this morning, Vinny, and saying hi, saying what you've said. And you can be found on Facebook as Vincent Grant. Is that the best place for people to track you down?
No, Vinny Grant. That's my trauma-free Vinny Grant.
Okay, all right. So yeah, check him out on Facebook, or come back to me and I'll put you in touch with Vinny. And of course, Vinny's got a couple of articles up on owlnet.news. Another great way to connect with him as well. Vinny, thank you so much.
My pleasure, my friend.
Keep on keeping on. And I know a bit of a cliche, isn't it? Stay safe, stay well. You know how I mean that. It's not from a fear place. It's not from a fear place. It's from a love place. And thank you to Rajesh. Thank you to Luca and everyone else who joined us this morning.
Yeah, thank you all. Bye-bye. Bye, Carl.